Chosen one, welcome. There comes a moment when the universe stops taking notes and starts taking action. That is the moment you are in right now, because let us be brutally honest. What you went through was not a misunderstanding, a coincidence, or an unfortunate streak of bad luck number. It was calculated, coordinated, crafted with intention by people who thought you were too blind, too soft, or too forgiving to ever realize what was really happening. They did not just fail to show mercy, they chose not to. Mercy was never even on the menu. And here is the part that would make a psychologist raise an eyebrow. Studies show that people who lack empathy overestimate their ability to manipulate others. They truly believe they can get away with anything simply because they can imagine themselves getting away with it. That is the disconnect your enemies lived in, believing that their cruelty would vanish into thin air just because you did not immediately react or retaliate. But life does not work like that. Energy does not work like that. And karma definitely does not work like that. You may have stayed quiet, you may have endured without theatrics, but the universe was documenting every detail like a top-tier investigator with nothing but time and cosmic receipts. And now those records are being processed. What is funny, if we can call it that, is how shocked they look now. The same people who were bold enough to target you with precision hurt are suddenly confused when consequences come knocking, acting like, me, what did I do? As if their entire personality was not an ongoing demolition project aimed at your peace. They planned the chaos, but they did not plan the aftermath. And that is where the story flips. Because chosen ones do not rise quietly, they rise with the echoes of everything done to them. Their elevation is not random. It is a response, a divine reaction to intentional harm. If this is landing in you, if you feel the truth that their elevation is not random, it is a response, press the like button. Not for the algorithm, as agreement that the divine reaction to intentional harm is real and already in motion. And whether your enemies admit it or not, they can feel the shift. They can sense that something is turning against them, something they did not expect, something they absolutely cannot control. This is not just karma. This is not just justice. This is the universe returning the energy they thought was lost in the dark. And trust me, this is the part they never saw coming. Number one, they miscalculated you because they only studied your wounds, not your wiring. People who wanted to see you fall were convinced they understood you. They thought they had you all figured out because they watched the parts of you that were hurting. They measured your weakness, not realizing your strength lived in a different place entirely. They saw your moments of confusion, frustration, sadness, exhaustion, and built an entire strategy around those snapshots. In their minds, your wounds were your whole identity. They assumed that if they poked at the places where you were already bleeding, you would finally collapse. But they never took the time to understand what you are actually made of. They did not look at the inner wiring that kept you moving, even when life hit harder than it should have. They did not notice how your spirit reorganizes itself after every setback. They did not realize your pain was not your breaking point, while they were studying your surface. Your enemies believed your silence meant you were overwhelmed. They thought your quiet seasons meant they had finally succeeded. They mistook your pause for surrender. What they did not understand was that your wiring is built for endurance, growth, and comeback. You do not fall apart. You reassemble stronger. You do not stay stuck. You process, purge, and then rise with better clarity. They underestimated all of that because they were too focused on what hurt you instead of what heals you. They built their attacks around the wrong version of you. Their calculations were based on outdated information, the version of you that existed before you learned boundaries, before you learned discernment, before you learned exactly who you were dealing with. They were fighting the old you, not realizing the new you came with spiritual upgrades they could not see. And this is why everything they set up is collapsing on their end. Their plan depended on you being weak. Their confidence depended on you staying broken. Their success depended on your wounds swallowing you whole. But your wiring would not allow that. You were built with resilience they never accounted for, and now they are dealing with the consequences of betting against someone who was designed to rise. Number 2, their cruelty was not random. It was an attempted identity rewrite. What they did to you was not just hurtful, it was strategic. People like this do not attack your life. They attack your sense of self. They go straight for your confidence, your voice, your worth, your perception, because if they can distort the way you see yourself, they do not have to lift a finger to destroy your future. Their goal was not just to make you uncomfortable. It was to rewrite the story you believe about who you are. Every insult had a purpose. Every betrayal had a target. Every moment they tried to embarrass you, silence you, belittle you, or make you doubt your intelligence was a deliberate attempt to weaken the foundation of your identity. They wanted you to internalize their lies until you could not recognize the truth anymore. They wanted you to believe you were smaller, less capable, and less valuable than you really are. Their cruelty was not emotional impulse. It was psychological construction. When someone tries to rewrite your identity, they chip away at you slowly. They do not always come in with big, dramatic attacks. They do it subtly, a sarcastic remark, a dismissive look, a joke that was not really a joke, a tone that suggested you were not enough, a reaction that hinted you were doing too much. These tiny cuts add up. The goal is to get you to question yourself so deeply that you willingly shrink. What they did not expect was that the real you sits beneath all those layers untouched. They did not realize your sense of identity is not built on their opinions. Their attempts to rewrite who you are only highlighted how powerful your original blueprint is. Every time they tried to bend your identity, your spirit snapped back into place even stronger. This is why their actions are haunting them now. The identity they tried to damage is the one standing in the light, exposing every lie they ever projected onto you. Their plan failed because your identity is not editable. It is not negotiable. It is not up for grabs. They tried to create a lesser version of you, but all they did was reveal a greater version instead. In the comments, type 444. Divine presence active in every moment. They tried to rewrite who you are. Every time they attempted to bend your identity, God was present in the original blueprint, holding it in place. 444 is your declaration that what was built into you before they ever arrived cannot be edited by their hands. Number 3. They mistook your endurance for permission. The people who hurt you convinced themselves you were okay with their behavior simply because you did not immediately react. They assumed your patience meant approval. They interpreted your silence as weakness. They genuinely believed that because you did not explode or confront them on the spot, you were fine with the way they treated you. That is how small their understanding of you was. They thought endurance meant agreement. What they never understood is the chosen ones do not respond instantly because they operate from a deeper place. You are not impulsive. You are not quick to chaos. You do not fight every battle you are invited to. You do not explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your endurance is not passiveness, it is discernment. You know when to speak and when to stay quiet. You know when to step back and when to move forward. And you knew even in your pain that reacting to them would drag you down to their level. They mistook your emotional maturity for fear. They mistook your restraint for lack of strength. They thought, if they did not leave the first time, I can push a little further. They kept testing limits without realizing you were keeping records, not out of spite, but out of clarity. You were watching patterns. You were learning their character. You were seeing who they really were without lifting a finger. And while they were mistaking your endurance for permission, you were gathering the truth you needed to walk away with full conviction. This is where everything backfired for them. The same endurance they mocked is the reason they are facing consequences now, because once a chosen one finally decides to withdraw their energy, their presence, their voice, their support, or their connection, the entire dynamic collapses. People who take advantage always think they can get away with it forever, until the day you stop showing up. That is when reality hits them. Your endurance was never about letting them do what they wanted. You were simply choosing peace over pointless drama. But now that the universe has stepped in, they are realizing the one thing they misjudged about you is the exact thing holding them accountable today. Number 4. They created a spiritual debt they cannot afford to pay. People think the only consequences that exist are the ones the world can see. Laws, rules, arguments, apologies. But there is a different kind of system operating behind the scenes. One that tracks intention, energy, motive, and the truth that never makes it into the conversations. When someone intentionally hurts a chosen one, they step into a realm they do not understand. They are not just being cruel, they are borrowing from a spiritual account they never deposited into. They are taking from a source that does not belong to them. And every action puts them deeper into a deficit. There is a cost attached to every lie they told about you. A cost attached to every trap they set. A cost attached to every moment they enjoyed your pain or pushed you closer to it. They thought they were playing games, but spiritually, they were signing contracts. They were writing down their names on consequences they thought they had never have to face. The delay in the response made them bold. The silence from the universe made them careless. They thought no reaction meant no record, but the universe does not forget. It waits, it gathers, it measures intentions, not performances. And now the bill has arrived. Not because you asked for revenge, not because you wished harm, but because repayment is automatic when the spiritual balance is violated. The consequences they are experiencing now are not random. It is the interest on everything they took. Interest on the perception. That is why people are turning away from them. That is why their support is vanishing. That is why the doors they once walked through with ease are suddenly sealed tight. The same walls they tried to trap you in have become the walls closing in on them. You did not have to do anything. You did not need to fight, expose, retaliate, or defend yourself. The spiritual system did the math on its own. And when the universe finally delivers the total, it never arrives gently. They created a debt out of arrogance. Now they are dealing with consequences they cannot afford. And repayment has only just begun. Someone reading this right now is still waiting for the balance to arrive. They have been patient. They did not retaliate. They did not expose. They stayed quiet while the record was being built. And now they are starting to wonder if the system is actually working. It is. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, a coffee, a seed, a place alongside what this message is building, what you release here, joins the receipts already in motion. The universe does not need you to file the paperwork. It filed it the moment their intention landed. This message exists to reach the ones still in the waiting before they decide the silence means nothing is coming. As you release your seed, bring with you the specific moment you chose to stay quiet when everything in you wanted to react. The silence that was measured in the cosmic record as evidence of your maturity. For the repayment that is running its own math without your interference. For the one in your life still holding evidence the universe is already processing. For the bloodline that inherits a different story because you chose peace over retaliation, not a general prayer. The kind spoken by someone who understands the system, the moment they were bold enough to think there would be no consequences. The debt they signed without realizing they were signing it. The silence you kept that was never weakness. It was documentation, and the quietest one, the fear that staying quiet meant you would never be vindicated. You will be, you already are. The universe does not forget. It gathers. It measures intentions, not performances. And the interest has been accumulating the entire time you were healing. Release your seed not as a cry for justice, as confidence that justice is already in motion. Number 5. They played a long game of destruction, not knowing you were built for long game resurrection. Some people do not attack you in loud, obvious ways. They go slow, they plan, they scheme quietly, they observe your weaknesses, your habits, your emotions, and they use all of it like data for their strategy. They stretch out the manipulation over months. They drip-feed negativity. They push boundaries little by little. They pretend to care while slowly working against you in the shadows. It was not a moment. They were committed. They were invested. They wanted to see you crumble carefully, piece by piece, until you doubted your own strength. They were not just hurting you. They were studying how to hurt you better. They planned out how to isolate you, confuse you, exhaust you, or push you into a version of yourself that was easier for them to control. They used your kindness as leverage. They used your loyalty as a weapon. They treated your openness like an entry point. Their goal was not temporary damage. They wanted a slow collapse, a quiet destruction that no one else would notice. But the mistake they made was assuming you were fragile. They thought your setbacks were signs of weakness, when really they were stages of transformation. They believed your exhaustion meant you were done, when really you were resetting. They mistook your quiet seasons for defeat, not realizing chosen ones evolve differently. You do not break in long battles. You adapt. You do not shrink under pressure. You shed old selves and rise into stronger versions. Every challenge they created forced you to grow mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and internally. They thought they were wearing you down, but they were forcing you into a higher level of awareness. They thought they were taking from you, but they were clearing space for new strength. They thought they were slowing you down, but they were steering you straight into alignment. The real twist is this: the long game they designed for your destruction ended up becoming the long game of their downfall. While they were putting energy into hurting you, they were neglecting their own growth, their own stability, their own future. They were so busy plotting against your life that they let their own life fall apart. They engineered your downfall on paper, but you were built for resurrection in reality. Now the one who survived the long game is the one rising from it, and the ones who created it are the ones caught in their own trap. In the comments, type, "I am built for resurrection," not as hope, as declaration. They designed a long game for your destruction. What they did not account for is that you were wired for a longer game, and that game ends in your rising, not your collapse. Number 6. What they did to you was not personal. It was predatory. The people who targeted you did not do it because they had some deep emotional issue with you. They did not attack you because you were the problem. They attacked because they saw an opening. Predators move toward what looks unguarded. They gravitate toward what appears safe, trusting, open-hearted, and genuine. Not because they value it, but because they think they can take advantage of it without consequences. You were not their enemy. You were their opportunity. And that is what makes their behavior so twisted. You were not hurt because you lacked strength. You were hurt because your strength was quiet. You were hurt because your kindness was not loud and aggressive. You were hurt because your heart was visible. Your intentions were clear, and your spirit did not come with sharp edges at the time. People like this see goodness as a weakness simply because they do not know how to access it within themselves. Your light did not offend them. Your lack of armor did. They saw your empathy and read it as permission. They saw your patience and mistook it for vulnerability. They saw your willingness to give people chances and interpreted it as a green light to take from you. Predators thrive on misinterpretation. They tell themselves stories like "you will not do anything," or "you will not notice," or "you will not leave." It is not personal. They do this to anyone they think will not immediately fight back. But the part they never prepared for was your awakening. Your spiritual armor did not grow overnight. But when it formed, it changed everything. You stopped giving predators the benefit of the doubt. You started recognizing manipulation quicker. You began setting boundaries that could cut off entire patterns of behavior with one decision. And now that their motives are exposed, they are the ones scrambling. Predators lose all power once their tactics are recognized. The moment you see them clearly, the game ends. They are realizing that the advantage they thought they had was an illusion. Your goodness was never weakness. It was a strength they did not understand. And now you are protected in ways they cannot get past while they are stuck facing themselves with no one left to feed on. Number 7. They underestimated the generational protection covering you. The people who came against you thought they were dealing with a single person. They thought every move they made, every word they spoke, every scheme they created was only affecting you in the moment. They had no idea they were stepping into a spiritual lineage that did not start with you, and definitely does not end with you. Subscribe not to follow content, but to stay connected to what is being revealed about your lineage, your protection, and your power. What comes next goes deeper. The protection you walk with was not born the day you arrived. It was woven long before your name was ever spoken. Your enemies did not consider the fact that someone before you prayed for the success, safety, and survival of their bloodline. Someone fasted. Someone called on God. Someone asked for their children and their children's children to be covered, even if they never lived to meet them. They did not know that the battles you faced were not just yours. You inherited victories you did not even have to fight for. When people targeted you, they thought they were striking someone unprotected. They thought they were overpowering an individual. They did not know they were coming against an entire spiritual ecosystem designed to keep you standing. That is why their plans never landed the way they expected. It is why their hurtful actions kept bouncing back into their own lives. It is why everything they sent out toward you returned to them with multiplied force. They were not just fighting you, they were fighting the prayers that covered you, and nobody wins against that. What they came against was never just you. The protection you carry did not begin when you were born. It was woven before your name was ever spoken. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, a coffee, a seed, a place inside what is being built across generations, what you release here joins the same system that has been working on your behalf before you understood you had it. This message exists to reach the ones who do not yet know the protection they walk in, the ones who still think they are standing alone. Your seed reaches them before another attack convinces them there is no shield. As you release your seed, bring with you the specific moment you survived, something that should have ended you, the attack that bounced back, the scheme that collapsed before it landed, for the generational prayers that were answered on your behalf, for the bloodline walking behind you that inherits the shields you are adding to, for the one in your life who needs to know that nobody wins against what is covering them. Not a general prayer, the kind spoken by someone who has seen the echo effect work in their own life, the attack that came at you and returned to its sender with multiplied force. The person who thought they were fighting you alone and ran into something they did not expect. The prayer, someone prayed over your bloodline before you could pray for yourself. And the deepest one, the fear that the protection is conditional, that you could do something to disqualify it. You cannot disqualify what was woven before you arrived. What covers you was not contingent on your perfection. It was established by faithfulness that came before you. Release your seed as someone who now understands what they walk in. The echo effect is not just for your enemies. It works on your behalf too. This is why consequences are hitting them unexpectedly hard. They cannot understand why their lives are suddenly facing blocks, delays, exposure, or loss. They think it is coincidence, bad timing, or stress. But it is none of that. It is the echo effect. Every wrong they did was amplified by the strength of the spirits backing you. The same protection that carried your ancestors through their storms is the same protection responding to the injustice you went through. They underestimated you because they misread your bloodline. They thought you walked alone. They thought you were standing unarmed. They did not realize that your lineage is fortified, your path is guarded, and your name is protected by forces they cannot see and will never outrun. In the comments, type 888, the number of generational return, the echo of every prayer spoken over your bloodline. 888 is your declaration that you are standing in something that was built before you were born, and will outlast every attack that was ever brought against you. Number 8. The reason they accumulated. The people who hurt you assumed they could keep moving you like pieces on a board, because they did not understand the evolution happening inside you. Every time they tried to provoke you, control you, or bend you to their narrative, they measured your reactions against the person you used to be. They did not see the growth quietly taking place, the inner work, the self-discipline, the clarity that was forming without fanfare. They thought the same tactics that worked before would work forever. That is where they made their biggest mistake. Once you matured and stopped reacting the way they expected, the power dynamic shifted instantly. Every insult they threw lost weight. Every manipulation they tried fell flat. Every threat, whether subtle or overt, could not shake you because the internal wiring that used to respond to fear, guilt, or pressure had been upgraded. You became impervious to the levers they pulled on people who were still predictable, still reactive, still pliable. Their playbook was obsolete the moment you outgrew it. You do not have to retaliate to break someone's control. You simply need to stop letting them predict your moves. Your calm, composed, and discerning responses now signal that you are not available for exploitation. That silence or measured action they once thought was passivity is actually strength in disguise. It is the signal that the game is no longer theirs to play, that the rules have changed, and the outcome is no longer in their hands. Now the consequences they face are a reflection of this shift. They cannot maintain control because the one they sought to dominate has become unbreakable. The tension they created, the lies, the manipulations, all of it rebounds because the target is no longer responding the same way. What they assumed was their advantage is gone. Their tactics are exposed as ineffective. Their downfall is not random. It is the result of a force they cannot influence. Your evolution, your awareness, your refusal to be used as a tool for their agenda. Their consequences are proof that growth is not just personal. It is disarming to those who relied on your former vulnerabilities. Number 9. They confused your empathy for naivety. But empathy is intelligence wrapped in compassion. The people who mistreated you assumed that because you have a soft heart, you had a soft mind. They looked at the way you cared, the way you listened, the way you gave chances, and they took it as proof that you were unaware. They believed your empathy meant you could not see manipulation. They believed your forgiveness meant you could not recognize patterns. They believed your patience meant you did not understand the game they were playing. In their heads, empathy and naivety were the same thing, and that is why they went so far without fear of consequences. What they did not realize is that empathy is one of the sharpest forms of intelligence a person can have. Empathy reads energy. Empathy picks up on motives. Empathy notices inconsistencies in behavior long before they become obvious. You were not blind, you were watching. You were not clueless, you were processing. You were not being fooled. You were letting people reveal who they were without interrupting the show. There is a deep wisdom in choosing to see someone clearly and still deciding to move with grace rather than destruction. The truth is, your empathy gave you an advantage they did not expect. It allowed you to understand the why behind their actions, not just the actions themselves. You could see the insecurity behind the disrespect. You could see the jealousy behind the fake support. You could see the fear behind their aggression. You could see the emptiness behind their cruelty. You knew exactly what was driving them, even when they thought they were hiding it. And that awareness kept you 2 steps ahead, even when they believed they were winning. They never considered that you were forgiving them because you were mentally done with them. They never imagined your silence meant you were mapping your exit, not seeking more chances. They assumed you did not react because you did not understand, when really you did not react because you understood too well. Empathy let you navigate their energy without absorbing it. Empathy let you stay grounded while they tried to pull you into chaos. Now karma is hitting them with a level of precision they cannot explain. They do not see the connection, but you do. Your empathy allowed you to see their character long before they saw the consequences of it. And now everything they sent out is returning to them while you stand protected, elevated, and free from the trap they thought you had never escape. In the comments, type, "I see clearly now," not as a boast, as the declaration of someone whose discernment crystallized in the fire. You were never blind, you were watching. And now what you see cannot be unseen by you, or by anyone watching your rise. Number 10. Their intentions were dark, because your presence exposed their spiritual malnutrition. What they carried inside them was not hatred, it was deficiency. And when someone who is spiritually undernourished stands next to someone who carries depth, self-awareness, and inner discipline, they do not feel inspired. They feel exposed. Your growth did not trigger jealousy. It triggered a mirror they were not prepared to look into. You were not a threat because of what you did. You were a threat because of what you unintentionally revealed about them. Your present people who have not done spiritual maintenance react like a damaged system. Every time you came around, their wounds flared, their egos inflated, and their shadows panicked. That panic turned into envy, then criticism, then sabotage. This is why their consequences are not random. They are corrective recalibrations. The energy they projected toward you was not neutral. It carried intention, and when intention is dark, consequences must be mathematical. They were not punished for disliking you. They are facing consequences because they attacked someone who had done the inner work they refused to do. Your growth did not harm them. The people who mishandled you were not just unkind. They were overconfident. They measured you by who you were in your lowest season and assumed that version of you was permanent. They bet on your silence, your confusion, your softness, your isolation. They believed those things would keep you conveniently powerless and eternally beneath them. In their minds, you were someone whose pain would never be heard, whose truth would never be validated, whose name would never travel beyond the room. That is why they felt so comfortable mistreating you, not because you were weak, but because they lacked the imagination to see who you were becoming. Their lack of mercy was not just cruelty, it was spiritual short-sightedness. They thought your silence meant safety for them, not transformation for you. They assumed you were too quiet to ever become significant enough to reflect consequences back into their lives. They did not realize that silence in a chosen one is not surrender, it is incubation. And now, your elevation has turned into a spotlight, and their actions are standing directly in the beam. The same people who dismissed you are now being forced to confront the receipts of their own behavior. They never planned for this moment, because they never believed you were destined for one. Your rise did not embarrass them, it exposed them. Your voice did not come back to haunt them, your becoming did. They miscalculated your future, and now they are dealing with the cost of that miscalculation. Number 12. They are panicking now because you hold memories that completely destroy the image they built. The same people who tried to rewrite your identity are now terrified because the truth did not dissolve the way they hoped it would. For years they crafted stories about you, quietly, strategically, and confidently. They shaped narratives in rooms you were not invited into. They painted you as unstable, dramatic, disloyal, difficult, or whatever label made them look innocent, and you look defective. They assumed their version of events would stick because they repeated it long enough and loudly enough. But the problem is this: you remember everything. You did not forget the tone they used. You did not forget the setups. You did not forget the betrayals disguised as concern. You did not forget the moments when their mask slipped and they rushed to count. Your memory has now become the one thing they cannot compete with. They built a fake image of themselves on a shaky foundation, while your lived experience stands on solid ground, and the truth does not need exaggeration. It just needs timing. That is what is happening now. Timing as life elevates you. Your clarity is putting cracks in every lie they ever told. What scares them most is not that you know the truth, it is that you embody the truth. You are the contradiction to their storytelling. You are the walking evidence that their narrative was a fragile illusion. They told the world one thing, but your growth, your character, your consistency, and your integrity say something completely different. Now they are scrambling, backtracking, revising old lies, trying to soften their history. But the panic is not about guilt, it is about exposure. They never imagined you would become someone whose memories carry weight. They never imagined you would rise high enough for the truth to finally have a platform. You do not even have to speak. Your existence is the rebuttal. Someone in your circle is still being gaslit by the narrative those people constructed. They are still questioning their own memory, their own experience, their own truth. Your existence is the rebuttal. And this message is what delivers it to them. Share it. The truth does not need exaggeration. It just needs timing. And the timing is now. Number 13. Their intentions backfired because pain sharpened your discernment. Everything they did to try and weaken you, the insults, betrayals, manipulations, and schemes, was designed to cloud your judgment, to confuse you, to make you doubt what was real and what was false. They wanted to keep you stumbling in the dark, reacting impulsively, and losing clarity in the chaos they created. But the exact opposite happened. Every attack, every attempt to blind you, only made your perception sharper, more precise, and unforgivingly accurate. What was meant to disable you became the very tool that upgraded your ability to see people for exactly who they are. Pain forced your attention to detail. Pain forced you to recognize subtle motives you used to overlook. Pain taught you to read energy the way others read words, to catch inconsistencies before they became patterns, to understand intentions before they were spoken. Every lie they told, every betrayal they engineered, every hidden agenda they thought you would never notice became a lesson in clarity. You did not just survive. It trained you to identify danger with laser focus, to anticipate deception, and to respond without compromise. The chaos they created became your classroom, and now you graduate with distinction. Their power over you vanished the moment your discernment crystallized. They no longer have access to your energy, your attention, or your trust. The very weapons they used against you, the same methods they assumed would keep you under control, are now irrelevant. You see patterns in people and situations that they can no longer manipulate. They thought they were building walls around you, but what they were actually doing was building mirrors that reflect their own intentions back at them, fully exposed. Their intentions backfired because they underestimated the adaptive nature of your spirit. Every act of cruelty, every attempt to destabilize you, only fortified your perception and removed any chance of repeated intrusion. They no longer have access to the person they thought they could control, and they are left facing the consequences of their own miscalculations, while you stand untouchable, aware and fully equipped to navigate the world with unmatched precision. Number 14. The repercussions they face now are simply the return of everything they sent out. Nothing happening to them today is random, accidental, or mysterious. It is the return of every intention, every energy, every choice they released into your life. People like them always assume the world forgets. They assume time will erase the truth. They assume their behavior disappears once you stop reacting. But life has a system far more precise than human manipulation, and it keeps receipts even when you stay silent. This is not revenge. You did not do anything to trigger their downfall. You did not have to curse them, clap back, expose them, or get even. Life simply mirrored their own actions back to them. Energy travels in circles, not straight lines. Everything they sent out had no choice but to return, and it came back with accuracy you could not have scripted. The cruelty they used to strip you of confidence is now stripping them of opportunities. The lies they spread to isolate you are now isolating them from the very people they tried to impress. The confusion they created around your name is now surrounding theirs. The darkness they pushed you into has now become the room they are trapped in. And the best part, life did not rush. It waited until you healed enough to not wish harm on them. Then the universe delivered consequences without emotional fingerprints. What they are facing is not punishment, it is balance. They built situations based on manipulation, and now they are being manipulated by the very energies they once controlled. They created storms for you, and those storms followed the scent of their intentions straight back to them. What is unfolding for them is the recalibration they never believed would happen. They thought they were exempt from consequences because everything they did was done quietly or cleverly. But life never needed volume to respond. It only needed truth, and now the truth has circled back, carrying every ounce of energy they once used against you. This is not vengeance. This is the universe returning their own package to sender. Conclusion. Everything that happened to you, the pain, the betrayal, the manipulation, the cruelty, was never random. Every single attack, every act of malice, every attempt to diminish or control you was intentional, carefully calculated, and designed to break the wrong person. But they misjudged you. They studied your wounds, but ignored your wiring. They mistook empathy for weakness, silence for compliance, and patience for naivety. They attacked the wrong version of you, the version they thought would stay small, pliable, and powerless. What they failed to realize is that every challenge, every hardship, every carefully constructed obstacle became the very thing that built your armor, sharpened your perception, and strengthened your inner authority. Their cruelty, their manipulation, their illusions of control all backfired because the person they tried to bend, break, or erase was not just resilient. They were designed to rise, and rise you did. You became unshakable because endurance became clarity, patience became discernment, and empathy became intelligence. You walked through their schemes with quiet awareness, documenting everything in your mind, observing everything in reality, and letting life itself become the instrument that exposes truth and delivers balance. What was meant to diminish you only revealed their flaws and exposed the darkness they hoped would remain hidden. Their miscalculations, their spiritual neglect, their short-sightedness, and their arrogance are now coming home to roost. The consequences they face are inevitable, precise, and unavoidable, because energy always returns to its source, and the universe never overlooks intentional harm. This is the power of being a chosen one. You survive the storms that were designed to destroy you. You grow from the battles meant to break you, and you rise in a way that leaves no doubt that every action taken against you has consequences beyond human understanding. You do not have to fight back, argue, or explain yourself. Your life, your evolution, and your presence become the proof. They did not show mercy, but your elevation now forces accountability in ways they never anticipated. You did not fight back. You did not have to. You let the cosmic accounting system do what it was designed to do, and you graduated from that classroom with something your enemies will never be able to take from you: the understanding of how the system works. Through the link in the description or the pinned comment, a coffee, a seed, a place alongside what is being built here. Your seed is not a cry. It is not a complaint. It is the first move of someone who understands that energy travels in circles, not straight lines, and that what is planted with clarity will return with accuracy. This message exists to reach the ones still in the middle of their chaos classroom, the ones whose discernment has not yet crystallized, the ones who are still trying to figure out whether what was done to them will ever have consequences. Your seed reaches them before they lose faith in the system. As you release, bring with you the specific receipt you have been holding, the truth you documented in your own memory. The moment you understood that you did not have to curse them or expose them because the universe had already filed the paperwork for what you are building from the other side of their schemes, for the people who will learn from your story that rising is possible, for the chosen one in your circle still waiting for the package to be returned. Not a general prayer, the kind spoken by someone who graduated, the challenge that was designed to break you but became your classroom, the discernment you now carry that they can never take back. The moment you stopped reacting and started watching and saw how precise the return was, and the final one not a fear but a declaration. I see the system clearly now, and I trust it. Release your seed as someone standing untouchable, not because nothing can reach you, because what you have been through has made you unshakable in ways your enemies never calculated. The universe never needed volume. It only needed truth. And truth has circled back carrying everything they sent. The package is returned to sender. The universe tracked every intention, every choice, every act made in the dark. The balance has been calculated, and you did not have to lift a finger to file a single one. This is more than content. It is a call to recognize your own power, your own growth, and your unstoppable path forward. God bless you.